tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled is composer Alan Roubik and fitness expert Cyndi Targosz. Southern California native Alan Roubik graduated from Alhambra High and Cal State Los Angeles, where he earned a degree in business. Alan expressed himself through music ever since he was 3 years old, but why did you take business in college?
Business, that's a good question. I didn't want to be a starving musician, and my parents, although very supportive of whatever I wanted to do, especially with music, I was always encouraged to study business as a back, like a net to catch me in case I fall.
A very good Armenian philosophy.
Yeah. I'm a family of entrepreneurs, by the way, so everybody was in business, yeah.
So they wanted you there too. But you were playing when you were 3 years old. How could that happen?
It's an interesting story. I was 3 years old. My mom bought me a keyboard. It's like a little organ keyboard. And after the, I don't remember what year, no, that would have been 1969, the Oscars, and they were showing Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head from Butch Cassidy and So Nice Kid. The next morning I'm playing it and listening, I had remembered it, and I was playing it on the organ. And my mom thought she left the television on, so she walked in and she saw me playing it. So she said,
That's
we have
amazing.
something here.
We have
in both hands, and I played it exactly the way I heard it. So it was a very unusual.
So what do you call that? Perfect pitch?
So
Perfect? What
that
is that?
Would be a prodigy. It's a prodigy.
So even though they knew they had a prodigy on their hands, they still wanted you to study business.
Well, yeah. Business was always something that I was always interested in, besides music. And growing up, I always thought music was going to be a hobby. I really never thought of it as a career move.
But as soon as you got out of college, you started your own record business, Roubik Records.
Yeah. I tell you what happened is that I ended up, while in school, never thinking about music, just doing music as a hobby. And I met a producer, a very famous producer. His name was Joe Gottfried. He passed on a few years back. But anyhow, I had bought stocks in his company. I'd been playing the stock market since I was 16.
In his company?
And I bought stock in his company, and he said, and I said, in passing that I've composed music. And he said, I'd love to hear it. And I said, I've really, I've never played it for anybody, and he says, put it on tape, and, whatever it is, just play it for me. Give me maybe 2 or 3 songs. And I said, okay. So I put 3 songs together. I sent it to him, and he calls me up, and he says, Alan, come on over to my office. I want to talk to you. So I get there, and he says, you really should be in this business. And I said, well, why? And he says, your ability to write and play is remarkable. You should be in this business. Think about it, and I'll help you if you decide you want to do it.
Oh, that's how you set up your own?
That was the beginning. And then I was just going to be a songwriter. And then I decided that I really wanted to express myself by doing my own work, by composing and performing my work. And then I used my business background to organize, to do a production. It's a lot of work.
Of course,
it's a lot of business.
And you've got to run your studio, right?
Yeah,
when you're doing that.
Sure.
What kind of music were you composing at that time?
At that time, it was considered contemporary jazz. Also now, it's not really smooth jazz. Back then, it was contemporary jazz.
Oh, I see.
With classical ragtime influences, which was what I studied.
I see. I see.
So.
But I think from what I read, your big hits came in Asia. You were a big thing in Asia. Why was that? The jazz, the classics, or the holistic music, which we're going to get into next?
Yes, the holistic music is what really took off in Japan.
But that came right after you were doing that, or during, or?
No, let's see. That happened in see, my first record I produced in 1992. Then the holistic music came in 1995. And I was approached by a scientist, a researcher, and he was explaining to me about magnetic resonance. And anyhow, he wanted to introduce my music to Japan, to one of his clients there. And the rest is history, and it just taken off.
But what is holistic music?
Holistic. Well,
because that's what you called it,
yeah,
and that's what they
yeah,
call it when they took it to Japan, right, or to Asia.
Right. The first record that we did was using, well, during the research, we used magnetic resonance analyzers, and we got some feedback from doctors, and I was able to create.
You worked with.
Oh yeah,
I
with
was
the medical
wondering
field.
how you did it.
Oh,
did you have to go through therapy yourself? I wondered.
No, no, I didn't have to. No, but I had the opportunity to meet with the world's greatest, most well-known, most respected music therapy professors and music therapy practitioners and doctors, and I was able to create formulas that were very unique, and created with the formulas new material, music that I composed.
What is the formula?
The formula is the secret.
But I mean, you have to have a formula? Is
Well,
that
it's
what you
not really
talk
a
about?
secret.
Is it?
Yeah.
Not that it's a secret, but
It's not.
It's not. Is it combinations of chords or something that you create?
There are certain frequencies, certain pitches, some certain
Is that what it
instruments.
is?
Yeah, there's a lot. It's actually quite in depth, and I don't usually go through the full explanation because it's pretty complex.
Oh, I didn't realize
But
that.
yeah, it is.
So what kind of instruments would you use then?
Well, anything from piano. Piano has
Which is-
great
you're a
resonance. Oh yeah, I'm
you're
a
a
pianist
pianist,
and
right.
composer. So I always use piano. I don't play anything else, just piano. And then I bring in acoustic instruments, guitars, bass, sometimes saxophone and flutes and various instruments to round it out. And yeah.
And an extension of that would be this Elements, the CD that you made on the chakras, the 7 chakras.
Right.
So did you study that?
This is quite unique. The Japanese, my clients in Japan, promoters there, asked me to create one specifically for the chakra system. And they gave me a lot of information that I used as a guideline, like the keys and the megahertz and the tempos, and I created music. Now, initially, it was all rhythmic. And then when I sent it to them, they said, "But you're not on it." And I said, "This is what you asked for." So then they said, "Your fans really want you to play." So I ended up composing melodies on top of the chakras, there's 7 of them. The chakras are different points in your body.
Right.
And I ended up composing new material and played it on keyboard, piano, and then added guitar and flute and saxophone.
But you don't play any of the other instruments?
I
just
don't. No.
But the chakras usually are associated with colors?
Yes, they also
Did
have
the colors
Yeah.
influence you when you were doing that?
I thought the colors. I said, this should be orange.
Yeah, but I mean...
Not really, but yes.
Because that's
the
what
mood.
it is, isn't
was
it, the
mood,
mood?
yeah. And I've had some experience doing yoga, and I've actually studied Lil Yoga with a yoga master, and so that really helped a lot. I did a lot of extensive research to do that.
So you made hundreds of CDs.
I've made a lot of CDs. I've made a lot.
And how... This is really a terrible question, but if it's all that kind of mood music, or I don't know what do we call it, holistic music.
Yeah.
How different can it be so that you make?
Well, that's a good question. That's a difficult question. But, there's always a goal. For instance, one may be for relaxation. So I'll focus on relaxation. The other one's the chakras, and that's more rhythmic.
That's part of it. I see.
So there's a variety of things that I consider.
So you change that.
Yeah.
I met you when you were composing music for a film.
Right.
It was called Germany, the Secret Genocide.
Yes.
And it's a film by Michael Hagopian, who's made films all his life. He's a great filmmaker and a terrific guy. And because you're Armenian, I'm Armenian, Michael's Armenian, it dealt with the genocide.
Yeah.
How did you go about connecting yourself to this project, other than the fact that you're Armenian? Because, you have to be connected in some other musically.
Well, of course, you know, my great grandparents were killed in the genocide, and so it struck a nerve with me. Of course, my family and growing up, you know. But being Armenian is a big part of that.
You
because
heard about it. You mean,
I've felt you know, a lot of pain. Stories that I've heard, terrible stories. Anyhow, what I did is I watched edited and unedited versions of the film to really get a better understanding. I learned a lot from doing this film, and I used this information and the feelings that I got from watching, you know, some horrific events.
How do you compose then?
It's all
Looking
by
at the screen?
inspiration. It's all by inspiration. Well, in this case, looking at the screen, looking at the content, listening to the content, even to the point where I will even listen to the way someone is, let's say an interview is someone's being interviewed,
because
and the way they speak, or you know, what they may be talking about influences what I do on the piano. And also in this film, it's not just piano, it's piano driven, but there are duduk, and there's strings, and there's oboe, and there's a few different
The duduk is an Armenian instrument.
Yes, ancient Armenian instrument.
And it's made like a flute?
It's
a
a wood. Yeah,
it's
a wood instrument, and it was difficult to find a great duduk player also.
Oh yeah,
you know.
But that's such a sad sound from the duduk.
Yes.
So that is really an underlining theme, I would think.
It's very sad, but there's a certain way that I wanted to, as a producer, wanted to hear the instrument, and it's a little different than what you'd normally hear. But I did find one of the students of Jivan Gasparian, who is one of the greatest. He's the master, grand master of the duduk, and he lives in Armenia. And I got his studio.
I've heard him. I mean, I've been at concerts with him, and he is incredible, isn't he? He's very old, and those cheeks puff up with the air because they blow out of 2 reeds or something like that.
It's got 1 reed, but I only play piano.
I don't play that at all.
And I hire the best guys. They know what they're doing.
And he is the best, isn't he?
He is the best, yes.
So you then watched that and composed to Michael's, to Hagopian's...
watching the film and getting a good feeling for it, and composing. And I did do live. I did have the monitor in the studio with the piano, and I watched, because it was important for me to move the piano with what I saw visually.
Oh, so that's how you made it all work. Before we leave, I know you did another CD called Spirit of Armenia.
Yeah, that's a CD single from the film. It's the theme song from Germany and the Secret Genocide.
So how long is that then?
This is only about 4 minutes.
Oh, I see.
It's a single, and yeah.
So do we see Alan Roubik writing a symphony?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes?
Oh, sure.
Oh, great.
Yeah, not right away because it doesn't pay much. You know, it's classical music is not the biggest thing. You know, but it is something that I will do, and I've incorporated orchestras in my work. So I do have orchestral pieces. But with the piano and more contemporary.
I'm so happy you came and told us a little bit about what you do. Thank you, Alan Roubik.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure.
And thank you for watching this part of the show. Don't go away because we have fitness expert Cyndi Targosz. Cyndi Targosz. She'll be in just a minute. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back. I'm here with
Oh, you want to hear it? Joan, you're surprising me. Okay.
I can't even think of what
All right,
Pinocchio would sound
I
like.
can't believe I'm doing this. Okay. Oh, Father, when I grow up, I want to be a real boy, a real boy.
Oh, I think that is good. Ad lib. That's ad lib. Totally ad lib.
Definitely, I wasn't expecting that.
Then when did you decide you did all these things? When did you decide to be a fitness expert?
Well, it's kind of interesting because I moved to Los Angeles wanting to be a sitcom star. That was my dream for my entire life.
That sounds perfect for you.
And certainly I've done my share of, parts here and there, but I got the opportunity. I was, to support myself, I was teaching fitness. And I got the opportunity to do a fitness video. And as I began doing more of this and making public appearances on living a healthier life, I began to realize that I was actually better at just being myself. And that was much more fulfilling.
But how did you learn to be a fitness expert?
Well, I am certified through the American Council on Exercise, the Aerobics Fitness Association of America. I'm also a certified...
But were you studying that? Do you study to be
Oh,
a fitness?
absolutely.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Constantly going to continuing education classes. And again, my training in anatomy and physiology really helped me understand how the body works. It's all tied in together.
Of course, so that really was great. But you're a motivational speaker too, and you've gone to these huge Volkswagen and big corporations, Kaiser Permanente, Pac Bell. Why do they call you?
Well, I believe very much in more than fitness, okay? I believe in what I call the MBS system.
I know, I think that's great. Let's talk about it.
Mind, body, spirit.
Okay, so that's what you do in motivational training?
Yes.
Okay, go on, tell us about it.
It's this whole interconnection, which has to do with how you think,
expecting things to happen
learning
and not falling apart.
When bad things happen, taking that time to breathe, rather than having your veins and everything
like I do pop out,
creating physical problems. Learn to at least have your physical disposition better. And as a result, you won't get as stressed.
So you just remember you give the lecture and then we're supposed to remember those things. And it's helpful. Mm-hmm. You did that on cruise lines too,
yes,
cruise ship.
I've also lectured on the cruise lines too, and anywhere I can.
And along with MBS comes body image, fashion.
Yes, I do a lot of work with body image and self-esteem. You'd be surprised. I have worked with so many clients that are actresses and models who look like they have it all, CEOs of corporations who look like they have it all, but they are very insecure about their image.
And so you can go in and help them change it. You give them suggestions.
Yes, it starts from within. It truly does.
Oh, that's really interesting because you have to depend on someone And who better? You've made hundreds of videos, haven't you?
I've made several videos and audio tapes.
Or
and
you've sold hundreds.
Yeah, so I haven't made hundreds. You're very good.
A mistake.
That's okay, but I have to tell you, I'm very excited because after getting booked on your show, I just signed a 2-book deal with Source Books for coming out this spring.
Oh, great.
Several of my fans have.
What will they be, the books?
These will be fitness books, but they will tie in the whole
But those
attitude.
videos must have been at the top of the video charts.
They've done very well. I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, that's great.
I love my work. And I always also say that, especially like in terms of stress, it's that as an individual, I too run into situations. People think, oh, she must be so perfect all the time. No, I'm human. And there are times when I have to look in the mirror and say, okay, Cyndi, what would you tell your clients? So that I can practice my own skills.
You were probably able to do this. You come from a really large family, right?
Yes, I'm blessed with 5 sisters and 2 brothers.
I can imagine. So were you
They're my
always,
best friends in the world.
Were they always beating you down and you had to show?
Oh,
Were you the smallest one?
Well, most of my sisters, I actually am. I never thought about it.
You're so small.
But it's funny because they do keep you down to earth, Like I'll go home and I'll hear them say, oh, you're so Hollywood, it kind of keeps me grounded.
But you live in Detroit and Los Angeles.
I have offices in Detroit as well as in LA, so I'm back and forth regularly doing a lot of work
So you
there.
really didn't give up your roots, which is great.
No, I think it's very important. I love Detroit.
But one of the things that came out of Detroit, I think, is this pinup.
Oh, I'm very
This
proud
pinup,
of it.
it's kind of so retro.
I'm very proud of it. I have the 2 versions. This one, the American Spirit, and the one with the flag.
We have the flag one here too, so we can see that.
And
tell us why and what and how this came about.
Well, I'm very flattered because a very well-known modern-day pinup artist, his name is Kent Steiney, had approached me about posing for this pinup. And it was something that I have to admit, as a little girl, it was one of my little fantasies to do a pinup because my father, who was a World War II vet, actually used to collect these.
These are contemporary pinups that were on TV Digest.
Right.
And you fit right into this whole thing of that. And you saw.
Yes, my father, a World War II vet, had a welding shop. And when I was a little girl, I'd go visit him at his shop, and he'd always have these pretty pinups. And I never thought of them as sexist. To me, they were beautiful, American-spirited women, and I viewed them as women who could do whatever they wanted to be. I viewed them as that American spirit. That was where my thinking was as a little girl.
And then were you happy with the way he depicted you? Your legs are pretty long.
Well, I've actually done a lot of leg modeling too and shoe modeling.
Separate kind of different modeling jobs.
Yes, and what's personally meaningful to me is I'm now doing a lot of work with the veterans and the military. And what I'm doing is actually selling these pinups to help to raise funds for various armed forces and veteran groups.
It's very noble.
Really become
it's very noble. That's really great. Now, when you go out to do these talks and when you go out to be with all these people or you go to the Veterans, do you ever come across really difficult people who go, oh, look at her, she's so peppy?
I've been pretty fortunate. I suppose there may be people that feel that way who don't really know me because I think sometimes when people first get an impression of me, they see this joyous spirit and they don't know the depth. I mean, I'm really a deep thinker when you really get to know me. So there may be some of that, but I don't, they really don't come out and say that.
So you haven't had this confrontational thing so that you have to use your motivational skills to turn it around.
Well, I think, I'm aware that people perceive me a certain way, but I refuse to be something that I'm not. I love the fact that women have choices nowadays, and I enjoy being feminine and still being, a businesswoman at the same time.
will you go on to do some more singing and dancing? Singing dolls?
You know, it's kind of what I've been able to do that's really been a thrill for me in the fact that I'm now doing these motivational talks, like when I perform for the veterans, for example. After I do my serious talk, I try to make it entertaining. I even do Marilyn Monroe for them.
You do?
Oh, I do, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, no.
Take us out with Marilyn Monroe.
Oh, God. You know, Joan, you're surprising me.
I know.
Okay.
Do you wear a wig?
No, I just, I get into her spirit.
Ah.
Okay, you want me to?
Mm.
All right. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. President. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, we love you, Cyndi. Thanks for being
I don't believe
with
I
us.
just said that
I love
today.
that.
Joan, you're something else.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
It was fun
You're
to have
dear.
you.
Thank you.
And thanks for watching us today. Keep riding to 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, 900-17. We'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.